Good evening, everyone. It's 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday. That means Water Wednesday. So thank you for joining. I see folks are joining, and I'm grateful. I'm Dr. Tiffany Boyd-Hodgson. I'm running for Vallecitos Water Board Division 5 in San Marcos. I do these broadcasts every Wednesday at 8 p.m. They follow a similar format. I talk about myself and the campaign at the top. Then I present a block of content. Then I close the content, and then I take questions from the public. And I am always asked very thoughtful questions. And sometimes I know the answer, sometimes I don't. I especially appreciate the ones that I don't know the answer to because it gives me some homework to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, and then I will launch into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the water quality report from the Vallecitos Water Board from 2019. So, as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Tiffany Boyd-Hodgson. I'm running for Vallecitos Water Board Division 5. The election is in, I believe, 76 days, November the 3rd. Polls are going to be open for in-person voting beginning October 31st. You're going to be able to vote by mail or drop your ballot off much earlier than that. There are some new rules to the election this year, and I encourage you to visit my website, tiffanyboydhodgson.com, or the San Diego Registrar of Voters. I have quite a lot of information on my website. San Diego Registrar of Voters is going to be updating information about where ballot drop-off locations are, and I encourage you to visit either of those websites. You can check your registration, make sure you are registered. It's very important. I'm a mom. I have 4 children in public school, including 1 child who is transgender. I'm a scientist, and I am running for Vallecitos Water Board for a couple of reasons, and I'll share those with you more in depth as we go through my presentation. I believe that affordable, safe, clean water is a human right. And we are fairly lucky in this area of Southern California that our water is pretty clean, and I'm going to show you what's in our water. But water is not an unlimited resource. It's finite. And here in Southern California, water is scarce, water is expensive, water creates hardship for some people, for a lot of people, in 5 seconds, as it turns out. And also, 62% of people who are low income, their water bill exceeds 12% of their income. The threshold to be considered unaffordable is 4%. So it's expensive and it's scarce. I'm running for Vallecitos Water Board to help stabilize water rates and get developer interests out of our water. We should be paying for water, and that's it. And we have been paying for water. In fact, our rates just went up, and they're going to keep going up. In part, as we go through life, things tend to become more expensive. That's the way things go. Houses are more expensive, cars are more expensive, property taxes increase, and our water rates will rise. However, they are rising at an unsustainable pace, in part because of policies made by the current board of the Vallecitos Water Board. They have been giving sweetheart deals to developers so that our water bill actually subsidizes development. That's not what it's supposed to be doing. We're supposed to pay for water and wastewater removal. So I am running to try to put an end to that practice. It's unjust, it's corrupt, and it's costing us a lot. So I'm going to share my screen. I have some content to go through first. Just give me one moment. And just a quick reminder, while I'm sharing screen, I can't see if you are typing in questions, but you can still type them in because I'll see them once we stop going through the content. So again, this is my Water Wednesday broadcast. I talk about water, I talk about water policy, I talk about the race that I'm currently running, and it's every Wednesday. Sometimes I have guests, sometimes I don't, sometimes it's just me. Tonight it'll be just me. I'm hoping to cover a few topics in the future, including fracking, groundwater, sustainable development. And so those are some of the things that I have on deck that I will be bringing in guests and experts to talk about. If you joined me last week, then you remember that I presented content from a Native American who advocates for providing, for giving personhood and personality to water. And I really, that presentation really struck me and inspired me. And, one of the takeaway messages of that presentation was understanding the history of our water. And understanding the history of our water is inextricable with understanding the history of our land. And that is also inextricable with understanding the history of the people that came before us, before the settlers. So tonight, I'd like to do something new. And I'm hoping that this can become a tradition here and that I will carry it forward when I am elected to the Vallecitos Water Board. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. And if you have sat through a presentation in Southern California, you may have seen this before. I've seen it before as well. I've seen it done in kind of a perfunctory way. And I don't want to do it in that way. I want to do it with intention and with acknowledgement. I will probably mispronounce some of these terms. I hope you'll forgive me. I tried to learn them and practice them before. And I welcome correction because that's how we grow. This is my attempt to know better and do better, to quote the great Maya Angelou. So we'll begin with a land acknowledgement, and I'd like for you to just sort of be with me in this moment and acknowledge this land. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory and homelands of the Liseño and Payom-Kawasham people. Cal State University San Marcos, which is near where I live, and surrounding areas are still home to the 6 federally recognized bands of the La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pachanga, Rincon, Saboba, Liseño, and Payom-Kawasham people. It is also important to acknowledge that this land remains the shared space among the Kupangawisham and Kupeño and Kumeyaay and Ipe peoples. We acknowledge that we are guests on traditional, unceded Liseño and Payom-Kawasham land. So I'd like for you to just take that in for a moment, acknowledge it, and we'll go forward with intention. This is a land acknowledgement that I took from a document. It's at the bottom. When I give these presentations, I always put the source at the bottom. I think it's really important that we credit people and that we provide documentation of where the information came from. So why would you want to vote for me for the Vyacitos Water Board? It's a great question. It's a down ballot race. It's a race that impacts your daily life. My commitment to you on the board is to provide affordable, quality, and reliable water. That is my commitment. No developer subsidies. I am not taking developer money in my campaign. One of the things that I would like to do, which is an idea that's bigger than water, is partner with schools and the trades for water operator training to provide good local jobs so that people who live here can raise their families here. They don't have to move farther out. They can afford to live here. And finally, I mentioned at the top, I'm a scientist. I use science to make decisions and not emotions, not special interests, certainly. So those are my commitments to you as an elected official in the Vallecitos Water Board. I have some endorsements that I'm really thrilled to talk about. One is the Sierra Club, and that underscores my commitment to preserving our environment, preserving and protecting our water. And I've also been endorsed by a group called 314 Action. It is a group that endorses scientists who are running for office. And that underscores my commitment to apply curiosity, critical thinking, critical evaluative skills to the office. So if you've seen this before, if you've attended one of these Water Wednesdays with me before, you've seen this map. But as I explain every time, these broadcasts are designed to stand alone so that if you've not seen any in the past, you can join this one and learn a little bit about the race and a little bit about me and about whatever content it is that I'm talking about. But they also, you can watch them. You can even binge watch them if you wanted to, if you're looking for a show. They're about 45 minutes long each. You can watch them in sequence too and learn something new each time. Some of it is repetitive. And that's okay, because I'm actually an expert in learning and memory, and it doesn't take an expert to know that repetition helps you learn. So I'm showing you this again. This is probably the 6th or 7th time that you've seen this if you've watched all of these broadcasts. So this is my district. It is Division 5. It's where I live. It includes Double Peak Park, which is right here. Twin Oaks Valley Road is one of the boundaries. Here is Cal State San Marcos. Here is Highway 78. Here is I-15. Escondido is off this way. Carlsbad is over here. Lake San Marcos and the Lake San Marcos community is right here. San Marcos High School is right here. So this just sort of gives you a little bit of a, helps you get your bearings as far as where the Division 5 is. This map was taken from the Vallecitos Water Board, Water District website, and it includes all of the other districts that are and their boundaries. I encourage you to visit that website. There is a lot of information. It's a really good website, and you can check and see if you are in Division 5. So if you have tuned in before, one of the early broadcasts that I did, you've seen this graph too. The Vallecitos Water District takes water in and pushes it out, takes water in from several locations. And I'm going to talk about these very briefly tonight, because we're going to talk a little bit more about them when I share with you the water report. So the water comes from the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta, Lake Skinner in Riverside County, and the Colorado River. This funnels into the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and the San Diego Water Authority. Up until 2014, this was the sole input of the water at Vyacitos. Right now, it's about 55% of our water. The rest of the water comes from 2 other sources. One is the Olivenhain Municipal Water District, which is about 18% of our water. And the second one, beginning in 2015, the Carlsbad Desalination Plant, which is about 27% of our water. Vallecitos Water District is also responsible for wastewater. So the water comes in, this is the green, the water goes out, this is the blue. The water goes out from, in a couple of different places, the Encino Wastewater Authority with a daily capacity of about 10.5 million gallons. This is not the amount that we send there, but this is the capacity. The Meadowlark Reclamation Facility, which recycles about 74% of the wastewater that comes through that facility, has a 5 million gallon per day cap. Again, that's not how much we send, but that's the capacity. So let's talk about the water report. This is available on the website. It's public information. It's not easy to get through unless you're just really curious about what's in the water. But that's why we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. Hopefully it'll pique your curiosity and you can do a deeper dive into the water report. So here, what's the upshot? Our water's pretty clean, and that's great news. The impetus behind me going through this water report is I was speaking with a voter. I was holding an event, a socially distanced event last week. And one of the voters who was there, he said, you know, I just don't really feel like I have an understanding of how clean our water really is. And I know that our water is fairly clean, and it made me curious. So I thought, well, yes, our water is pretty clean, but let's dive deeper. So I went to the website and I downloaded this report, and I've taken excerpts of it that we're going to walk through tonight. So this is from 2019. It takes a while to compile this information, obviously. So this is from 2019. The 2020 water report is not available just yet. So again, over here, we have some of the inputs to our water district: the desalination plant in Carlsbad, the Colorado River via a 242-mile Colorado River aqueduct, the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta via a 444-mile California aqueduct. These are some of the inputs to our district. After more than 150 types of tests conducted by its wholesalers, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and San Diego County Water Authority, and additional tests performed by the City of Oceanside, Olivenhain Municipal Water District, and Vyacitos, it's been concluded that your water either met or exceeded all state and federal potable drinking water standards. That's great news. Along with these tests, your drinking water went through a treatment process that included filtering and disinfecting to ensure acceptable quality. Results of our own testing, along with the City of Oceanside's, Olivenhain, and our wholesalers' monitoring, were found in the tables of this report. So that's just the intro of this report. The upshot is it met or exceeded all state and federal drinking water standards. The EPA is the governing body for the federal standards. So this is a busy slide. I have 3 slides like this. We're not going to go through all of them. But what I will do is talk a little bit about some of these abbreviations, and they're all listed in the report. You can look them up. I have a cheat sheet here because the slide was already pretty busy. But what you're looking at here is a list of items that were tested. That's what is right over here. They're called parameters. It's the things that were tested. The different units that they're reported out in, and what you have probably heard of before are parts per billion, ppb, parts per million, ppm, and those are pretty abstract. It's hard to think about that just sort of in our day-to-day lives. So the Vallecitos Water Report uses this handy metric, and I think it's a really good one. Parts per million is the equivalent of having 1 drop in a 10-gallon fish tank. Parts per billion is the equivalent of having 1 drop in a swimming pool, if you think about a residential swimming pool. I think that's a better way to think about it. It's a little bit more concrete. So the things to take away from this that I'd like to direct your attention to, if you look down, the results of the tests, these are the units. These are whether they are meeting state or federal standards. The range average is, or sort of the designation of whether or not it's within an acceptable range, or whether it's high or whether it's low, is here. And this is a really important column. Everything says average. That's good. It's not high, it's not low. I guess it could, some of these are toxic, so it would be better if they were low. But they have not exceeded the levels of toxicity to fall outside the norms and to fall outside acceptable parameters. What you also have up here is you have the different treatment plants through which the water was tested. Twin Oaks Treatment Plant, just north of San Marcos. This is the Metro Water Authority. You have Weiss. You have the Carlsbad desal plant that we've talked about before. And then you have Olivenhain. Remember what I said? Oops, let me go back. Remember what I said, that we get 18% of our water from the Olivenhain, from the Olivenhain Municipal Authority. And this is the treatment plant. And what I find that is interesting to me, and is something that I would be concerned about, or that I would ask questions about, is these letters here, ND, ND, or excuse me, NR, 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 all of these NR. So what does that mean? Well, NR means not reported. It's different than not detected. Not detected means that they tested for it and they didn't find it. For example, E. coli. If that gets into the water system, it can cause a lot of illness. It can make a lot of people sick. Here, not detected. Here it says not applicable. I'm not sure why that is. Not detected, not detected, not detected. So that's good. Animal and human fecal waste is the source, the typical source of how it would get into the drinking water. That's a fairly, most people know about E. coli. Most people know where it comes from. And most people know that if it gets in water, if it gets in food, it can be really dangerous. But if we look at some of these others, for example, under inorganic chemicals, if you look at arsenic, Arsenic is a poison. Most people know that as well. There is a level that is acceptable in parts per billion. It has to be under 10, and it's very, very low, so that's good. Not detected, under 10 here, under 10 here, not detected. But here, it says not reported. And I would want to know what that means, because I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's because they don't test for it, or if it something happened and the test maybe wasn't reliable or valid. I would want to know that. And those are the kinds of questions that I would feel like it's my responsibility to ask as a person who sits on the Vallecitos Water Board. There should be an explanation. Maybe someone did ask that question. Maybe that question has been answered. But me, as a layperson, as a member of the public, for whom this is available, and I know what arsenic is, and I certainly don't want to be drinking it, there should be an explanation. Why isn't it reported? Should I be concerned about it? I don't know. But someone should be asking that question, and the answer should be provided to the public. So there are 3 pages of charts like this in the water report. And Olivenhain has a lot of not reporteds. And I would want to know why that is. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious going on. I just think it's an important question that we need an answer to. So that's an example of something that you could count on me to try to look into and get to the bottom of, because I think people want to know what's in their drinking water. Something interesting also, these are a bunch of different substances. Some are contaminants, some are, found naturally in the environment. Over here in this column, let me see if I can just get, oops, let me just go back. I'll move on to this one. In this column, it says major sources in drinking water. So this gives you an idea of where these products that could be tested for, where they might come from. And I found that really, really interesting because, some of these can leach from natural deposits. Some could be from industrial discharges right here. For example, if we're looking at silver, if we're looking for sulfate, it could be runoff or leaching from natural deposits or industrial wastes. I thought that was really, really interesting. So I'm going to go one more slide that's similar to this. What I want you to take away from this is that this information is available to you. You can study it. You can look up what all of these abbreviations are. You can look up what all of these substances are. You can look up, if you are so inclined, or if you have an interest, I could even do it for you if you asked me. You can look in the medical literature and find out, well, what happens if there's a high concentration of aluminum? What happens? What kind of health hazards does that cause? What about manganese? What if there's a high level? Those I don't know the answer to off the top of my head, but those are good questions. What I want you to take away from this is that Olivenhain, where we get almost 20% of our water, 18%, they have a lot of NRs not reported. It doesn't mean that it was not detected. Not detected implies that it was tested for and not found. Not reported means something else. I don't know what it means, but I'm curious, and I feel like there should be an explanation. And then finally, one more. We have, here are some more substances that might be found in the water, where they might come from. Obviously, sodium, potassium, pH. So this is all available to you. And if you ask me a question about, well, I noticed this in the water report, what does that mean? I will get back to you. I will dig into it and I will get back to you. But what I do want you to take away is that there is part of our water that we're getting from a partner, and we don't know the levels of some of these things that we're testing our water that comes from everywhere else. Okay. I hope you found that informative. I'm going to hearken back to last week one more time, where we listened to Kelsey T. Leonard, who's a Shinnecock Indian, excuse me, and she challenged the people in her TED Talk. She asked, she asked people to ask themselves, what have I done for the water today? She challenged us to reestablish our connection with water. And she reasserted that water is life. And I truly believe that water is life. So I'm going to challenge you. Think about water. Think about it differently. How can we reestablish our connection with water? What have you done for the water today? What have I done for the water today? It could be something as simple as not using water when you're washing the dishes, filling up the sink, filling up, this much water, scrubbing the pans, letting it out, putting it in the dishwasher, rather than letting the water run and run and run. My kids do that when they do the dishes. Sometimes they turn on the water, they just let it run and run and run. It could be turning off the water when you brush your teeth. Or it could be investigating water sources nearby and finding out and learning about them, learning about those water sources, learning about the health of that water. It could be learning about the people who came before us on that land, because the land and the water and the people are inextricable. I have talked about this for several weeks now. This is something that I learned about at a Vallecitos Water Board meeting. If you are struggling to pay your water bill, and there are so many people that are struggling right now, if you are struggling, help may be available. Remember I talked about at the beginning, 1 in 5 San Diegans, their water bill exceeds 4% of their income, and that's considered the criterion for unaffordability. In low-income neighborhoods with low-income people, their water bills, 62% of those folks have a water bill that is 3 times that threshold. It's 12%. If you are struggling, help may be available. If you're struggling because of COVID-19, what you can do is you can call the water district. Ask to speak with customer service. Remember that the person who is answering your call in customer service is not the reason for your struggle. Please be kind. Talk to them. Tell them you're having trouble. Ask about the special case program. You will probably be asked to provide documentation that supports your financial hardship due to COVID-19, but it's worth a shot. So many people are struggling. The phone number is listed here, 760-744-0460. Give them a call and see if they can help you. The general manager and the staff and the administration seemed very, very willing to work with people. But this information it's not out there. It hasn't been really broadcast widely as far as I can tell. So I'm doing that because I want people to be able to get the help that they need. So finally, before we wrap up and I take questions, I don't know if you're watching this on my website, but you can now also watch it on YouTube. I have a fantastic team that is helping me. We're trying to get through campaigning in such a strange time, and they're doing such a great job helping me get this set up, setting up the YouTube channel, setting up the website, and I'm really grateful. So you can watch this on YouTube, you can watch it on Facebook, you can watch it on my website. I am looking for volunteers. I need volunteers to help with literature drops. We're doing a no-contact lit drop. It's not safe for us to be talking to people for extended periods of time. I don't want to jeopardize people that are at the door, and I don't want to jeopardize my volunteers. I don't want to jeopardize myself, and I don't want to jeopardize the families of all of us. So what we're doing is a no-contact lit drop. And this is kind of an interesting way that we're having to reach voters during this strange season with COVID-19. So I'm looking for precinct captains, people that want to get some exercise and drop some literature at doors. And I would be really grateful if you would join our team. You can do that on the website. You can, all of my contact information is on the website, so you can go through that avenue to get me. You can also email me. You can reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I'm not that great with Instagram, but I'm learning, and I have some great people trying to help me. They keep telling me the same thing over and over, and eventually I'll get it. You can also support me, and this is, I wish we had publicly funded elections, but we don't. And so it costs money. It costs money to host this broadcast. The platform that we use to stream across all those different platforms, it costs a little bit of money. And so I'm asking people for small dollar donations. I know a lot of people are having a hard time. I appreciate every single dollar that I get. And I have a monthly donor who it gives me just a little bit every month. She said, I just got my Social Security check and I want to help you win, so I'm going to give you a little bit of that check. And that really, really means so much to me. So I carry the weight of that faith, and I carry the weight of that seriousness, and it tells me that people want change, and I'm going to be that change. You can support me by going to bit.ly/TIFF for the WB. That's how you can support me. Okay, let me stop sharing and see if any questions have come in. Just give me one moment. Okay. Okay, here's a question. How do we know how much glyphosate ends up in the water? I will find out for you. I will find out if that is included in the water report. I don't have a paper copy, and you know what? Let me just see. I'll go back. I'm gonna just check and see if that is listed in what I cut and paste from the report. Just give me one moment. Let's just see. We might as well just have a quick look. Okay. Let's see. I don't see it there, and it is possible that it is under a different name. So I can do that research and I can do that homework, and I will get back to you. I don't see it there either. One more. Okay, I don't see it there either. I believe that that is a pesticide, or an herbicide rather. So I am, I'm interested in that. We know that herbicides cause cancer. We do. Those data have been published, and those data have had financial consequences for people who do the polluting. So I will find out for you, and I will get back to you. I'm going to make myself a little note. So thank you for asking that question. What other questions do you have? Because I can talk about the campaign, and I can keep talking about that just a little bit. The concern question is that glyphosate is being sprayed on sidewalks and front yards. My understanding is that it is being sprayed by the city. So I will, and I have some contacts over at the city that maybe I can tap for that as well. There are children that play on those sidewalks, and I mentioned that my kids go to public school, and at the beginning of every year, there is a pile of paper that I have to sign as a parent. One of those things is, do you want us to tell you when the grounds are sprayed? I always say yes. Actually, I don't think I did it this year because I think I missed that form, but I usually say yes. I do want you to tell me that, just so that I can be aware, and maybe tell my children, if you're going to play outside today, maybe don't go rolling around in the grass, or just to be a little bit more on guard. When we know we can protect our kids, when we don't have control over that, it's frustrating, and it's disempowering, and it feels dehumanizing. So I appreciate that, and I will find out. What other questions do you have? I'm glad we walked through the report tonight, and I'm really curious to dig a little bit deeper into what all those substances are. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know off the top of my head, but some of the ones that are sort of common knowledge, I do know. Okay, let's see, here's a question. How much interaction is there with Vallecitos Water Board and the San Marcos City Council so we can have more allies and help? That's a great question. And when I first started thinking about running for this position, I chatted with some of my friends who work in the city and who are on the council. And as it turns out, there's opportunity for growth. There's opportunity to build bridges, and I hope to do that. I think it's really, really important, especially because the city is is the body that grants the development and the building permits. And if we can think about smart growth and smart development, and we can be on the same page with some of the council members and make sure that we are not, for example, granting favors to developers who have contributed to our campaigns, which has happened in the past, then we can make sure that we're building a San Marcos that works for everybody, not just the folks who want to develop and who will do things that may or may not be in the interest of the public. So there's room for growth. There's room for growth to build those bridges. There are a couple of folks running for city council that I've been speaking with regularly because our districts overlap somewhat. One of them, the districts overlap, the other one not. But one is named Alan Gerasi. He is running for San Marcos City Council D3. One is named Neil Kramer. He is running for San Marcos City Council D4. Both have experience in city workings and in planning, and I think that they would be great additions to the city council. I am on good terms with both of them. I'm also endorsed by our council member whose district I reside in, who is Council Member Randy Walton, and I have been speaking with him about ways to build bridges, forge relationships, and work together so that we can all move forward together in a way that is smart and that uplifts all of the citizens in San Marcos and in the district. Any other questions? As I always say around this time, I try to keep these about 45 minutes at the most because I work. I know some of you work, and it's hard to be on yet another call late at night. And especially, if you're trying to tuck kids in now that the kids have gone back to school but there's a bedtime routine that you have to follow. So my purpose in doing this is to educate about water, to educate about the Vallecitos Water District, to educate about why I'm a good candidate and why you should vote for me. And I am doing this because I've talked with a lot of people and they don't even know that the Vallecitos Water District is governed by a board of directors. They just know that this is where their money goes. This is where their water comes from. This is where their sewer goes. And this is where their money goes when they pay for those services. So having an understanding that there is a board of directors that governs the district, that board of directors is responsible for increasing rates, and having an understanding that that board of directors can be influenced by special interests is important, I think, for accountability and transparency and for the citizenry to have an understanding of the way that their utilities work. So that is part of my motivation for doing these broadcasts. So any other questions? I'll give it maybe one more minute. And if not, then we'll sign off. These broadcasts live on my Facebook page. I broadcast them through Twitch as well, and now through YouTube. I'm really, really happy to announce they are now on YouTube. So you can, if you can't join, for example, Kamala Harris was giving her acceptance speech right as this started. So I'm really grateful for the folks that have joined and that are, that are watching this. But if maybe you watched her and you didn't watch me tonight, that's okay. You can watch it later because these are archived and they live in perpetuity on those platforms. So I'm going to sign off. I am grateful. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching me and listening to me and asking me tough questions, asking me questions that require me to do homework, because I am a lifelong learner, and I think that's really important for anybody that serves the public, and especially someone that is serving the public when we are in the midst of a pandemic and we are in the midst of climate change. It's going to require someone who is flexible in their thinking, who can think about creative solutions, who believes science, first of all. And I'm that person. So I humbly ask for your vote. I humbly ask you to join my team, and I humbly ask for you to support me with a financial donation if you are able to do that. Thank you for joining. I will see you next week. I will have a guest, most likely, and I will report more about that as the week goes on and I firm up the content. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, wear a mask. Good luck if you're homeschooling kids. It's not easy. I feel for you, but we'll get through it. We're all in it together. Thank you. Good night.